Welcome to the eCom Collab Club podcast, where operators, risk takers, and battle-tested founders drop the lessons that cost them time, money, and their sanity, and share what actually works so you don't have to pay the same price. Hosted by Peter Gardner and Adam Pierce, founders of the eCom Collab Club and Blend Commerce, the Shopify CRO agency, and proudly sponsored by OmniSend. Email and SMS marketing so good, it's boring.
Good morning. So I am neither Peter Gardner or Adam Blend, as the video has suggested. I'm Rich Evans. I help the guys out. I'm a part of eCom Collab Club. Today we've got Finula, who I can call Finn, right?
Yes.
Excellent. 5-star widgets, glossy reviews are everywhere, yet shoppers still bounce for all of us. So how can we turn a passing scroll into a checkout? And in New Day Originals case, a climate conscious customer for life. So me and Finn are going to lift the lid on the subtle psychology of social proofing and community, and talk about some of the CRO tactics that power her insanely popular eco fashion label, New Day Originals. So Finn, welcome. I'm excited to have the honor of hosting you without those two clowns, Adam and Peter, because I don't normally get to do this on my own. They've given me the keys. It could be the best or worst thing that they've ever done. To start us off in 60 seconds, who are you and why did you swap SaaS boardrooms for sustainable clothing?
Yeah, so as you say, my background is actually as a marketer, and I've worked in the retail tech space for a very long time. So I kind of was working around e-commerce from the very start, in the late 90s, in fact. And then more recently, or not really that recently, I worked for one of the big players who are well gone now. They were bought by NetSuite, which was Venda, and I was their global head of marketing. So e-commerce isn't a very new space for me, but more, so I worked for Microsoft and a bunch of other blue chip companies. And in 2009, I returned from Australia to the UK and saw a bit of a gap in the market. I was going to a lot of black tie functions as part of my job as a senior marketer, and I saw a gap in the market for occasion wear. And it took me a while, but kind of in 2015, I started importing as a side hustle occasion wear from Australia because they just did it better as far as I was concerned. And I had that as a side hustle while I was a senior marketer until 2019. As we know, a lockdown hit in 2020 and I was selling occasion wear. So you can probably tell what happened to my business. And I'd left my corporate job. I actually had decided to go full throttle into occasion wear, and my business was called Finique. And during lockdown, I sort of started to, I wanted to do something. Everyone was wearing t-shirts and sweatshirts, and I wanted to obviously, capitalize on that trend. And I just started making organic t-shirts and sweatshirts with beautiful, happy, and somewhat tongue-in-cheek slogans. And that actually was going quite well for me. But when we came out of lockdown, nobody wanted to wear Lycra and sweatshirts anymore. We were all sick to the teeth of looking really sloppy and working from home and all of that. And I kind of thought, right, I'll get back into my, fancy dresses. But my whole values around the industry, the fashion industry, had, unbeknownst to myself, changed. And I kind of thought, I don't want to do occasion wear, single wear fashion anymore, or sequence, or, Lycra, or any of those materials. And I'd actually been learning an awful lot over the couple of years of lockdown. And I decided to design a dress that I wanted to wear. I'd hit 50 by then, and luckily not during lockdown. I got my 50th birthday celebrations in 2019. So I was a woman in my 50s looking around thinking sustainable fashion is either not affordable or very boring. So I kind of wanted to put my own spin on it. I'm not a trained designer, but I launched my first dress, which was called Hope, after about 20 samples that looked dreadful. And it just took off. And from there, I've lost count of how many different style dresses and how many collections I've done. So that's it.
Fabulous. And I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm presuming that is a New Day Originals that you're wearing right now. That's one of your creations.
It is. So I work with cotton mostly and organic and, flattering but comfortable styles.
Okay. And when you said you were you literally making, or were you designing everything and then putting that into manufacturer? And what's that journey been like?
Yeah, so I make everything in India, which is in and of itself an absolutely incredibly steep learning curve that you never stop learning. Every collection is fraught with tension. The cultural differences between ourselves being very individualistic and very driven, where time is money, is just so different to India. So I think I'm about 4 years making, or 3.5 at least, with India. And finding even, suppliers has been a massive part of my journey. But thankfully, I've sort of landed on a few that I trust. Still, it doesn't go perfectly. I've one supplier who's several weeks late with the collection. What can you do, sort of thing. And it's very hard to really get to the nuts and bolts of why things go wrong with India. But I've been out there now, and I've very good relationship with my factories. And obviously I'm working with small factories that use only well-paid, fairly paid, pensioned employees. So you go out and you visit the factories and you make sure that there's no kids being used, that, the working conditions really are really good, which, by the way, is a double-edged sword, because when you're trying to rush something, you have to say, no, I don't want anyone working at night. I don't want anyone working overtime. So it's a dual responsibility there. It's my responsibility to behave as well in a way that doesn't put a factory under pressure and have people staying up all night. But yeah.
Is there like an understanding though? So sometimes I guess, from your audience and community, which we're going to go into a bit more detail in, because that's a big part of what you're building, is not just a brand and a label, but a whole sort of movement and a community. Because people in that community, part of the reason that they like you, I'm sure a lot of it is just how good the products look, but it's also going to be the understanding that you is a movement away from this fast fashion, and it's not going to be here today and return tomorrow and then another 2 arrive the next day, sort of thing. Is there a bit of an understanding though that that's your process, and so these things will happen?
Look, like any brand that might watch this, we all have different audiences and personas within our marketplace. I won't say that everybody who buys a dress from New Day Originals, understands that it takes time and it's done by hand and their pre-order might be late. But I do have people who buy from me because I am sustainable and ethical. I would say, and me and my friends talk a lot about this, I have a lot of friends in sustainable businesses, vast majority of people, particularly when it comes to a dress, they just want a nice dress. And it's difficult and it's frustrating because, you want to bring out those values and you want to take people on that sustainability journey. And I think that's the best you can hope for, is that someone sees this dress and they love it and they want to buy it for a wedding or Ascot or just running around to Sainsbury's or whatever, which is kind of what we like to think about our dresses. They can be worn anywhere. But
I guess it's a sort of a crux of growth, and people sharing your deluxe and stuff, that you will get people that are not maybe buying into everything. They're seeing a nice dress at a great price and wanting to buy it for an event that they've got coming up, and maybe skip that whole sort of thing. So I suppose, that's where like post-purchase journeys and things come in to try. And I think I don't know if you know Julian and Sam at Batch London, but sort of similar mission where they're creating rethinking men's formal wear. And if you're not, well worth looking into them and things, because there could even be a collab there, because I've got a batch suit. But the idea is you get fitted, you decide what you want, and then it goes into production. And I know from speaking to them, that sort of explanation to people that have bought in and are doing it for the reason that they've made the brand, absolutely fine. I understood that it wasn't going to be here for that awards do, but might be here for the next event or things like that. But I suppose then as you grow and the expectations of users that aren't maybe with you for that journey are there because you're a trendy brand and you look good, it's going to be hard to explain the process to them and get their understanding.
Yeah, and I think that is my responsibility as someone who really wants to, it's to bring people on the journey. So while they might see us first because they like this dress with little red cherries on it, then as you say, post-purchase, my content, needs to constantly talk about it's ethical, it's sustainable. But, a lot of us look at, again, talking about other small brands, we're often, and batch might be the same, we're looking at our websites and we're looking at where people are landing and what they're looking at. And honestly, the sustainability values page is probably the least visited page in my whole website. And it makes me sad and it makes me frustrated, but it doesn't, I know that the future is sustainability. So even if I was doing it just to be, to ensure my business for the future, I know that that's where the industry is going. I know regulation is coming. I know that shops are going to have to start probably adhering to a certain quota of product that is sustainable. I'd love to see that happen.
Yeah, I think it's definitely people, if you ask people, they would say, oh yeah, it's at the forefront of my mind. But if you then sort of could read their minds as they're making that decision, I think fast, convenient, price are probably all still trumping the sustainability message that we want to feel like we're doing and we're supporting and we're doing what we can. But it still
I think
comes down to convenience.
the same goes for small business. So, I was lucky. I started this business, New Day Originals, in lockdown. And there was this fantastic appetite for, small business and supporting small business. But again, we've really seen that sort of fall off the edge. And again, it's just human nature. People just want what they want. And, if they can get that cheaper, faster in Zara, they're going to do that. And, they're going to eschew the choice of, look, let me support Finn. She's a small business. It's not that they have to, by the way, I've got products on my website that ship straight away. But, I'm probably more expensive for a cotton dress. Yeah. So I think that as well, and really trying to continue to put across, and there's still people who, go out like I am anyway. When I need to buy anything, I first check the local store up the street, particularly if it's independent, but certainly any business up my high street. I'm always, but small makers, if I want to buy a bunch of candles tomorrow or at Christmas or whatever as gifts, I will look at small businesses before I'll go into John Lewis and buy a Moulton and Brown or whatever it is candle. So, I think it is that again, and that's where, that's a real tenet of the community. And I suppose that's what our Instagrams and our public presence is doing for us. It is helping us to really continue to instill those values and put across those values to our purchasers and prospects.
Totally. And I think I'm going to invite anyone that's watching live. If you've got any questions at all for Finn, please ask them in the comments and we'll do my best to get to them when we get into some sort of Q&A territory. I'm going to move us. We are here to talk about click rate optimization. And with that comes a whole multitude of things like social proofing and things. And that's where we're going to start. So what is the first sort of trust breadcrumb, if you like, that your ideal buyer meets on site? So I think, you mentioned you'd ideally like everyone to be first sort of landing page would be the sustainability and things, but the reality is that is in people's minds, but probably not at the forefront. So what's the sort of first thing that people meet when they land on the site, which starts building that trust, which is going to get them from that visit to checkout?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. I think you know, a lot of people find me through my offline activities and my Instagram. So seeing me, you know, as the face of the brand front and center, I think is one of the things people find reassuring when they come to the website. And I realize not every owner can do that. So perhaps your client who make the suits, maybe they model their suits, but you know, and it's one of the things I have grappled with as a founder, because to be quite honest with you, I don't really like modeling. I certainly don't feel like I should be doing it anymore. But then the stats show me that people and qualitatively people say, "Oh, Finn, I love when you do a live. Oh, Finn, I love to see photos of you. Yeah, your model is gorgeous, but we like to see you." So I think that's one of the things that I have to continue to do and make sure that my whole 5'2" body is interspersed with the, you know, 5'11" model shots. I think that's one of the things. We do have, like everyone, it's not rocket science, but we do publish our reviews. We probably don't do it as much as we should be doing it. But our feedback is, and I'm not just saying this, but our feedback is unreal. Our returns rate is pretty low. And even then, it's usually an exchange. So we have that at the bottom of our site. And we also have a feed coming into our site from Instagram, because that's really the kind of the front room of our community. That's kind of where, you know, people interact. I mean, if you go on today's post, I haven't looked at it for a couple of hours, but my post this morning, I was just doing an update on the fact that I've now finally moved into my new home after a 2-year pretty grueling journey to Ireland and back. And honestly, these are not necessarily, I won't say they're not friends, but these aren't people that I know personally from my life. But the interaction with that post today is absolutely enormous. So if someone's coming into my website and they just scroll down, they'll see today's feed and they'll kind of go, "Oh, look, you know, this is a real person selling real clothes that will arrive to my doorstep in a couple of days as promised," you know. So that's, you know, and I think the other thing, which isn't necessarily sort of, well, it is a trust, but it's certainly, you know, that landing page shows choice, it shows depth of collection. So I'm not dealing with Mickey Mouse. And that has been important as well, I think, in terms of sort of converting and dwell time on the site.
I think there's a spate of sort of conversations with female founder-led brands in my world. So I work in I founded an agency that deals with CRM. And so last week I was speaking to a lady called Sophie, who's got a brand called I Am Denim, which specializes in jeans for post and maternity, post-surgery and things like that. And Princess Kate was spotted in her jeans a few weeks ago. So now she's had this like massive hockey stick of like exposure and stock issues and things. But she, again, similarly to you, she built a brand because she needed something and it wasn't there. So she built the brand that she needed and she really owns it. And, you know, I think she's the model in a lot of the shots on her website. And I was like, I think that's great. She's like, I hate it. I just couldn't afford a model when I started. So I thought, well, I'll do it, sort of thing. I think another one similarly is Heidi from Halo. So they do like low carb baked goods and things. And again, she was on this low carb diet and just couldn't find all the things that she loved. So created the brand that she needed. And I think when a lot of big, huge corporate brands and stuff are sort of trying to backfill this and trying to bring in like influencers like Molly May, for example, that might be like sort of put in as a creative director of a brand to try and backfill this sort of image of being founder created and led, as opposed to this move away from fast fashion. I think you've got a real head start on, you've been that from the start. You've owned it, you've built it.
It's amazing you mentioned the Molly May one, because I'm in a lovely little network called Female Fashion Founders, and it's just about 15 of us, and we literally meet and have a glass of wine and chit chat. I'm supposed to be at one of those today. I'm not because of you, but I'm moving house. So Molly May is a really interesting one, because if you look at, sounds like a great gig, and it actually backfired a lot. So, she had some quality issues. There were some quality issues with a couple of the pieces from that collection, which, God love her, Molly May probably didn't have an awful lot to do with actually picking the fabric, but it did backfire on her own personal brand.
And I think there'll be a lot of people, though, there'll be a lot of the market that really works for. And I dare say probably a lot of the younger demographic and things, and they're where they more aspire to that. But at the same time, they will alienate a lot of the audience by being, well, that's not me. That's not. And that's where I think you can come and clean up, and other brands like you, where I think that transparency shines through. So which of the things then that you just mentioned? So there's a few tools and tactics that I can see from your website and your activity that you use. By the way, just looked at the Instagram post from this morning, because I was going to kind of touch on Instagram, but then it had been a couple of weeks since the last post. And so I thought, right, well, but the fact that you've been able to post that very openly, sort of saying, look, sorry, I've been away, I've been moving house for 2 weeks, shows that it is you that's doing the social media and not someone that's doing it on your behalf and you're just in the videos. But B, the amount of likes and comments and engagement that you've had in just 2 hours of that post, where the algorithm won't have liked at all the fact that you've been away for 2 weeks, does just show that loyalty and that brand engagement. So yeah, kudos for that. But of all of those sort of tools and tactics that you're using from a social proofing point of view, what do you find nudges more clicks? So I don't know if you're analyzing GA4 and looking at all of your sort of funnels and stuff as closely as others might be, but what if it's a gut feel or just from speaking and hearing from your users, what's moving the dial? Is it the glossy sort of user generated content side of things? Is it the raw video try-ons that you're doing, like the sort of the video content? Is it those written reviews? What do you feel is moving the dial more than anything else?
Well, as I said, I'm so bad at using reviews. I got the most outstanding DM yesterday from a client, customer, and just so lovely. I get emotional when I get reviews and then I do nothing with them. But I did ask her, I said, can I share this? So I still haven't shared it. But I think it comes down to education. I think, people say entertainment, education, and what's the other one? Inspiration or something. But for me, anything that says, here's 5 ways, or here's 3 ways, or this is how you could, wear this if you're this shape, or, whatever. Not just my content, but just across, I obviously live in Instagram a lot of the time. I had an influencer, Club 40 Claire is her name, and she was wearing one of my dresses there during the week. And she's amazing. She is a stylist by trade, but she's amazing. She did this post of one of my dresses, is called Honor Carnevale. And she did just 5 different shots of the sleeve at different lengths. And honest to God, I even said, I designed that dress. I never even thought of what a difference that would make if you pushed it up here, if you put it here, if you have it here. And the interaction with that post was absolutely huge. So I honestly think for the sector I'm in, women's apparel, women's dresses, normally you're buying a dress not to, schlep around the house in. You're normally going out in public in it. I think anything that taps into educating someone so that they feel better. And that's where my design comes from. Straight away, is this dress going to make someone feel good? That's it. And that can be loads of different reasons. But, in fact, we were talking about sustainability and stuff. Yeah, people do want to be able to say, oh, where's your dress from? Oh, actually, it's from this little brand and she's sustainable. And therefore, that gives me a halo. That makes me look like a very caring person about people, and not wanting children to be in these yucky factories in danger. So now look at me, I'm a saint and I look beautiful in my dress. So, I think there's kind of and not the reason I live in Instagram, except for the last 2 weeks, as you kindly pointed out. No, well, actually, what happened to me the last 2 weeks was I was popped up in 3 different. White Cocoa is an amazing independent boutique, and I was very privileged to be invited to do my launch in Chelsea, which was a pinch me moment for me, an amazing retail business. She has 3 stores, one in Oxford, one in where was I? Berkshire, and one in Chelsea. And I was literally the first 2 weeks after launching on the road in those boutiques. And I luckily was so busy, did not have time to do a lot of posting. But yeah, to come back to it, I think education is at the base of everything. And I get amazing feedback when I do a live. So if I go live, and I don't know, this is probably the same for a lot of founders, it's that there's a face to this brand, which no other brand, no national chain can do that. And yes, they're trying to do that through celebrity partnerships, but nothing replaces being the owner. Like I follow Never Fully Dressed, and she's kind of I think she was the founder of that, putting yourself in the center of the brand. If you know her, she just does all the styling. She's constantly showing up, showing people how to wear the clothing, and amazing brands. So kind of looking at that, even though they have grown, they are absolutely huge, she still shows up and does the content. But conversely, I follow and love Me&M, which is a beautiful British brand. And I don't see the founder enough. Rixo, they kind of intersperse themselves. I'm sure they're very busy ladies. I went to one of their events at Christmas, and the draw card was meet the founders. And, I was really looking forward to meeting them because I've always been a fan of their brand. And I just didn't see them. And I was like, but, they were probably really busy with influencers. But I do think you're right. That is one of the things we have going for us as founders. And it's something that even though it's hard to get out of bed some days, I never want to kind of lose from my brand.
Yeah, and I'm going to come back onto that towards the end as one of my closing questions, though. So I'll plant the seed now. I'm going to ask you just how, what is the plan for the business? If it's growing and more products and more sales, how are you going to manage to keep that founder thing true? But we'll come on to that at the end. So I'm planting it now because it's not on the planned questions. Where do you think then? So you've mentioned a couple of times about some other bigger brands and things. Where do you? And what I love as well is you seem so immersed as a customer in your industry. You're not just doing competitor analysis. You are actually a customer of these brands. Where do you think fashion brands are leaking conversion? So even where reviews are solid, where do you think they're going most wrong on their websites when you land on there? Is it something to do with the way they present the products? Is it sizing? What do you think's going wrong?
I can only really speak for, firstly, yes, I am an avid shopper. I don't shop as much as I used to, but I do it as a it's very important for me. And I don't just go on a website and kind of grab something. I'm fully immersed in the journey and what are they doing, and, what information are they presenting and how are they presenting it. I do think, especially for my own brand, I think sizing is absolutely huge for me. And it's something that I haven't quite gotten right. I've just brought on a wonderful lady who comes from the e-commerce industry and is coming back into work after having a beautiful little girl a few years ago. And her name is Rebecca, and she's worked for Vera Wang, in fact, Vivienne Westwood. And, she and I were talking about this, and we both agree that, we've got to get that sizing thing better, because firstly, from a sustainability perspective, it ain't good to be sending out stuff knowing it'll come back, Also, I totally discourage what we call in the industry bracketing. So I hate when I get an order that has 2 sizes and 2 sizes, and I think I have failed this person. So I think sizing is really important. And I think, you know, it's like anything, it's not one ultimate thing, but there's always something in the back of your mind about, will this brand, it's the old adage of the white t-shirt, you know, will this, paying 300 quid versus 5 quid for a white t-shirt where they all look the same, will this give me a kind of an acceptance amongst my tribe? You know, and those things are very subliminal. And that's why I was saying to you, you know, having somewhere myself, and I call, you know, when you say, women do it a lot, oh, I love your dress, where did you get it from? And they go, Zara. I call that a conversation cul-de-sac. You know what, there's nothing else that I want to say to someone, or someone, you know, I got it from Zara, great, okay, end of combo. Oh, I got it from this little brand, or I was out, you know, lunching and we went to this store and we were in Westbourne Grove and we whatever. And I think that's, you know, one of the things that's always in the back of my mind. Will this have me accepted? And I think increasingly, because there's so much choice, it's not just about the aesthetic of the dress. It's about what message am I putting out there about myself when I wear this dress or wear this item of clothing. I don't want people, that's why I love this thing, this anti-fast fashion thing. I mean, I wouldn't buy from Shein or Temu if it was the last thing in the world or I loved it, because I don't want people to think I'm supporting that kind of an industry. So I do think there's something there. And I think even though people aren't going to go into your page and look at your sustainability values, they still want to feel like, you know, I'm a good person.
Yeah, and I think, like you say, it's that conversation cul-de-sac. That's definitely going to be something that we snip, I'm sure, and lay down on LinkedIn, because you're right. When you wear things, you don't want to be asked the question. Like, I don't want anyone to ask me if I'm ever in a coffee shop using my little portable second monitor, where I got it from, because it was Temu, and I ended up in a Temu wormhole, and now fully appreciate and have been absolutely harassed by them to never want to go down that route again. It served as a good test and things, but conversely, I absolutely love it when people ask me about my hat, because I always wear this brand of hat. It's constantly referred to in eCom Collab Club, and Steve, the founder, is like, you know, royalty within eCom Collab Club, because it's a very cool hat with a very cool story. And I won't go into it now, but I'll definitely share it with you afterwards and things. But it's different, and it's a talking point, and it's got like some theatre to it and stuff as well. And so I love sharing that story. Luckily, I'm far from style icon. I'm a 40-year-old overweight man that's always wearing a True Classic t-shirt and jeans. So nobody ever asks me where I've got my stuff from, but the hat definitely comes up in conversation.
Yeah. And that's what we want. And I think you have to go back to the tribal thing sometimes, which I spend a lot of time looking at, which is we couldn't survive as cavemen and women if we didn't have a tribe around us. We would get eaten. And I think that is the backbone of success or failure for all brands. You know, it's like, will I be more accepted by the tribe if I buy this?
I think as well, it's wanting to have something that's unique. And you know, your reviews are fantastic in terms of quality and relatively low in terms of quantity, because you're in a startup phase and you're growing, and because you're constantly launching new products, product reviews specifically on that product are never going to be thousands and thousands, because you're not mass producing on that level. Do you think, though, that's almost going to help, and it would be a good A/B test for brands with bigger volumes of reviews to actually show less reviews and see if that converts better? Because people want to find that balance between good reviews but not thousands and thousands of them, because you don't want to run that risk of turning up to Ascot and you're in the same dress as somebody else as well, right?
And I'm going to ask it so we can talk about that. Look, I think there's myself, as I said, I've moved house. I love reading reviews. You know, I always go to, if something's got 1 star, I'm already bounced off that. I'm not buying that bed, that table, whatever. It's got 1 star. So I think reviews are increasingly important, but our attention span is quite low. So I would definitely say more recent reviews. I probably have reviews on our website of stock that's quite old, but I will say I do get a lot of feedback. So it's about putting an engine in place that captures that better. I'm using Judge Me at the moment, and it needs a punch to get it. It's like, hey, did you get your Judge Me request for review? So I haven't got a good review tool. Sorry, I shouldn't be slagging off Judge Me, but I feel like I haven't nailed that for the amount of, like the lady yesterday. Thing is, people not think they know me. People know me. I'm often the reason they found the dress, they bought the dress. So I get a lot of direct feedback, which is wonderful, but not very wonderful when you're trying to get it on a website so that other people can have it. So I think it comes down to the technology that you're using. I certainly, even though I'm small, I'm still going 4 years. I've still made thousands and thousands of dresses and made thousands of people happy. So I should have many, many more reviews. But it's simply the time hierarchy. You know, where should I spend my time? And that's one of the places that Rebecca, who's come on board, is going to be spending her time.
And I think it's less about like Judge Me not being up to the task. Like, I'm sure it is. It's more about you are the head of brand, but also the head of CRO and the head of customer retention and the head of customer service. You're the head of everything at this point. So we do a lot of like audits and stuff for clients and find that they've often got all of the tools, but they've just put them in place and gone, right, off you go then. These tools need to be optimized and they need to be updated and they need to be, so yeah, it's then taking that, what you get from direct conversation, and being able to then drive that into the machine that then can feed the website with the social proofing and things. How do you decide, like in your business, where each of these proof elements, so you know, your product page is very much product, sizing, reviews, social proof. Like, how do you decide the order in which you sort of feed these things? Is that from changing things over time? Is that from rigorous testing? Is that from just what, because you're the customer, I suppose, you've built the brand for you, that what you think is the right order to present things in?
I suppose it's the legacy of the brand, because I am a marketer by trade. Therefore, I am a storyteller. And when I started the brand, it was very much, you know, again, it was during lockdown. So I love to tell the story. I mean, if you just look at the names of my dresses, every single dress has a story. And so you'll notice that I start my thing with, in fact, I'm doing it not as much as I used to, purely because, to answer your question, I think people don't really want all of that, but I want that. And I want my brand to be differentiated because there is a story. So for example, you know, I'll call a dress, after all of my sisters have had a dress called after them. Now I'm into the nieces and nephews, the grandchildren. This dress that I'm wearing is called Misha. And Misha is after the daughter of the guy who made the dress. So, you know, I've got Parry. Parry is after the little niece that of the guy who made the Parry dress, because I met her when I was in India. She was this tiny little baby. You know, they all have names. They have a memory. They, you know, they've gone off and on the website. You know, and so, yeah, like, I think that's why I started with, hey, I came across this. And also, like, if you go to the Joy dress, for example, it tells the story of, this is the dress that my friends coming out of lockdown needed, because they no longer needed to wear a navy pinstripe suit into their corporate banking job. Now they could wear a dress, but they still needed a smart dress. So I created the Joy dress. And I don't know, I haven't tested it. I don't know if people are reading it, but we are looking at this at the moment, because I feel like size is probably more important than the story. I also give, you'll have seen, style tips. We haven't done them for this collection so much because I was in a hurry. getting my collection launched. But, you know, those 3 style tips, you know, wear this dress 3 ways, you know, put loafers and a blazer on for the office, put some wedges or flip-flops on and a tote, you know, whatever, raffia tote bag and some big sunnies for, you know, Greece, blah, blah. So that's because that's core to how I speak about sustainability, which is sustainability is versatility. If you cannot see yourself wearing this dress multiple ways, do not buy this dress, because you will only wear it to the wedding and you will never wear it again. And we all have a lot of that. So I want to show people and tell people how to do that. I want to educate people on how to do that. And I think that is important, but you have to get out of, is it only important to me or is it important to other people? And you're right. Haven't A/B tested it. That's the job for Rebecca, our e-commerce consultant who's working with us.
And I guess, you know, it's blending those eco credentials that you're really passionate about, that you know the end user will have in their mind, hopefully, and it's educating them, but making it feel human without preachy. So exactly, you don't buy this dress if it's just for one occasion and then it's going to end up on Vinted or a resale site. Buy this dress because you can already think of 3 different ways that you can wear it, like the sleeve length thing that influencer sort of helped you with, or the accessorizing and things like that. So yeah, okay. We're going to go to a quick message from our sponsors, read by the wonderful Peter, and then we'll be back with a couple of questions and some quick fire stuff.
Do you sell stuff online? Then you need OmniSend. Yes, that OmniSend. The powerful yet refreshingly intuitive email and SMS tool that helps you make $73 on average for every dollar spent. Like watching steady lines go up and up and up? Just automate your email and SMS campaigns with OmniSend. Set it up once, then sit back and watch the sales roll in while you snooze. You're still awake? Then go to omnisend.com/ECC. Give OmniSend a try and start getting sales so steady they'll definitely put you to sleep. Don't forget to use code ECC30 for a 30% discount.
There we go. So we've sort of talked about how you acquire customers and the reason behind starting the business. Obviously, for you and every other fashion brand, a big key to making business work financially is bringing people back time and time again. So how do you do that? How do you turn like one-off purchasers that might just be buying something for that one event into loyal eco-smart, like New Day Original fans? How do you bring them back and back time and time again?
I mean, firstly, I would say I think they do it themselves, if you know what I mean. I'm not going to take credit for that, because I think someone chooses a dress, they love wearing it, they get that social proof, you know, that kind of tribal acceptance, because they get to tell the story, because they know the story, because that's how they came in to buy the dress in the first place, and they feel good about it. It's, you know, obviously the quality and all of that, let's just assume that's all good, but I think that they do get that feeling, but they don't, you know, these are subconscious feelings. They know that when they wear that dress, they feel good. So I think that's why customers are coming back. Yes, of course, we send out a, you know, follow-up. I hope you loved your dress. Make sure you give us a thing. We also, you know, our kind of funnel, our full circle is, you know, trying to get them to come back into Instagram, where I'll continue to talk about the next thing. And I do a lot of pre-launch build up, so that people can start to go, ooh, it's that, and that. Like my launch night this summer was my best day of trading ever. And that was for dresses that they still had to wait 4, 5, 6 weeks for. So yeah, I think it's that, but then of course it is your email tools, it's driving them back to kind of your social platform. And then, you know, they start to feel like they are part of a community. I saw people at my physical events meeting each other who'd never met in person before, thinking that they knew each other, and not being big-headed, but I feel like that was because of me or because of that community. You know, they've agreed with each other online, or they've, you know, under a comment. Every post you go to, you'll see interaction between my community. Like, you'll see someone sharing a dress on their account, and then you'll see loads of people going, oh my God, yeah, you've got that New Day Originals dress. I really love that New Day Originals dress. So I think that that is a lot of it. I think that's why people are coming back. I think, you know, people who are not coming back for more, it's very complex and it's very painful to look at. But, you know, quite simply, it's a bit like, you know, when you broke up with your boyfriend or your girlfriend when you were younger, it's like, well, it wasn't meant to be. It's a little bit of, we weren't a good match for them. I mean, I did some meta ads last year, and I'm hoping to kick those off again shortly. But I did some meta ads last year, and what I realized was it was bringing in people who are not my kind of customer. You know, they don't care about the story. They've probably been scrolling late at night, and they've, you know, maybe shopped on 3, 4, 5 different platforms. You know, and they're impulse purchasers. And then I started to kind of go, okay, this isn't working for me, because my returns rate from those customers was going really high.
Yeah.
So likewise, it's just as important to understand why customers aren't coming back as why customers are coming back.
Yeah, and I think recruiting the right sort of customers. I think your industry, as much as any, you don't want the wrong customers coming and buying, because the cost of returns and things is sky high. I also pray for your inbox. Now, you've stated live on LinkedIn that you're looking to start some meta ads again. That could impact your inbox. So yeah, tread with caution. And so does sort of Facebook groups and community and those comments, do they help you shape future collections as well? Do you sort of go to those communities and go to those groups and look at what they're saying and help that shape what you're going to do, or do you just sort of follow your nose?
No, I mean, because I'm so customer centric, that is huge for me. I see, it's not Gather and See. Who are they? The very sustainable little brand, not little, they're actually growing a lot. They make a real feature of the fact that they get feedback from their community. I've been doing it from day one. It's kind of my personality as well to ask people what they think. So it's intrinsic to how I am about everything. But for example, I had a comment yesterday which broke my heart, and she said, oh, when is the feather dress coming in yellow? And I just replied and I said, I'm so sorry. I said, we're not making it in yellow, because when I put it out there, it was really not, it got no traction. You know, yellow is notoriously a hard color to wear. So yeah, my customers, I put so much content out there in the process. Like, for example, I'm wearing this dress, this sample dress that arrived today. It's arrived in 3 colors. That will be going up. I might even do a little live because I've washed my hair today. So kind of feeling okay about myself. But, you know, I might just do which is your favorite? I can't make all 3. I do a lot of that in Reels. I get amazing interaction and it's really helpful. However, I do want to say one thing. Last year, I got feedback after feedback after feedback on a dress called the Soul Sun dress. And I thought this is going to be a massive winner. It was my first non-printed dress, and it absolutely had huge, which color should I make? I made about 10 different color samples. It bombed. It bombed to all hell. And I think you need to be careful to get the input, but don't let it drive ultimately your decision. So, word of caution, But I do, because people also then, it's part of the sales funnel. Then they see it arrive and they're like, I've already seen that. I've already prepared in my mind that I'm going to wait till this cherry dress arrives, and that's the one I'm going to buy for my summer wedding or whatever. The other place I go, and this is earnest for me, this is really huge for me, is once I start to get my samples together, I would go and visit my stockists. So I literally go out, and I've done it with a few of my stockists in like January. I think I was going around with summer dresses, to getting on the train with a suitcase full of samples to Sandwich in Kent to my lovely stockist, Miss K Boutique. And the girls, where we all call ourselves girls, went through all of the dresses with me, and I really respect their opinion. They told me what would sell, what wouldn't sell. My whole collection this year, I gave huge credit to Sally, who owns White Cocoa Boutique, the 3 boutiques that I've been in the last couple of weeks. And she told me, purple doesn't work. It doesn't sell. Don't make purple, blah, blah, blah. This neckline, this thing. I listened to her intently, and she had a lot to do with my collection. So yeah, feedback is huge, because I'm a bit wacky as well, like, and also I'm very small. So I have to make sure, like, I've one of my friends, she's a good size 14. She'd put on something and say, oh, Finn, this wouldn't work on me, you know? So yeah, I listen a lot to feedback.
I think that's one of the biggest areas that founder-led brands can go, and one of the biggest mistakes they can make is where they only ever make the product for them, and they don't expand to, well, what if, you know, I might not like this, but other people that are in my demographic would, or in my friend group would, or in my sort of market research group and stuff. So yeah, it sounds like you'd be awesome at that task on The Apprentice that they always fail, where they have to build a product and then go and ask people what they think about it, and just have way too much bias. So brilliant. Okay. What we're going to do now, I've got a question from the audience, and then I've got some quick fire questions as well. So we'll start with this one. So Matthew's asked, what have been the main obstacles that made it challenging to convert your ideal customers? And what strategies have you used and found effective in overcoming them? So have there been instances where you know you've got everything right, but you just haven't been able to get them over the line? And have there been changes or things that you've made to try and make sure that, to try and lead them to conversion?
It's an emotional question for me, Matthew, because I've done this summer, and I don't have the answer yet. But so the last few years, I wanted to keep my dresses under £100, and that was because I was putting myself in the same bucket as kind of your Zara, your sort of high street. And my whole thing was, I want to make dresses accessible. I want to make it easy for you to go from Zara to a sustainable brand. The problem with that is it wasn't profitable. So you can't make a sustainable dress ethically in small quantities like I'm doing right now and sell at 80 something quid. This year, I've up-leveled in every way. I've used more trims, and I suppose I've left some of my audience behind, and I've had to. So I'm still trying to work out, how do I, you know, convert and hang on to that audience and show them that it's worth their while spending. By the way, my prices went up about 20, like for like, about 20, 25 pounds. So not an enormous amount, barely cover my VAT when I re-register. So, you know, it wasn't a greed thing. So I think the way to do that is to continue that educate, tell the story. Why is this better? Why did I put up my pricing? Which obviously some people's like, I want the dress and I want it for 100. I'm never going to buy a dress from you again. But also bringing people on that journey and saying, for me to continue to make sustainably and ethically and to survive as a business, I have had to put up my pricing. And a friend of mine, Sarah Atkins, she's a wonderful, she used to be my boss, actually. She's a wonderful chief marketing officer at the Institute of HR Directors. But she said to me over a glass of wine, she said, Finn, I don't think you're doing a good job of telling that story. And, you know, I was really upset with her for saying that to me, but she was right. So I think you have to show up, tell the story, not give up, educate. Now, there's another thing. I also very much feel my dresses are worth it. So I mentioned M earlier, and I love a brand called Cézanne, which is a French brand. I'm not copying any of them. I buy my occasion wear from them, whatever. And I love, I love the jeans from Cézanne. I'm always in there, and I love. The thing is, the kind of customer I'm trying to get now is the Cézanne and the M and the maybe LK Bennett and those customers. So they're used to paying more. So I've got two sides. So I've three. I have a customer who's used to paying less. I have a customer who has accepted, there's Finn, she needs to make a profit. I get her story. I'm still buying from her. I love her. Then there's the new customer that I'm trying to pull in to my web and say, hey, I'm offering great value for money and something really unique. So the way I've been doing that is I've been at White Cocoa, popping up in 3 very affluent areas where we'll find that kind of customer. I've been getting feedback from them. I've been seeing them try it on. I've been on the ground. I've been asking them why they're not buying it, why they have bought it, how they feel after they've bought it. So, it's just on the ground tactics. It's stuff that would scale probably if I was a big brand. Get out in front of your customer, ask them, what do they think of the price? Is it value for money? And thing is, everyone wants value for money. So even if I'm a customer who thinks nothing of spending £350 on a cotton dress like the one I'm wearing, mine is £175. It's beautifully tailored. It's just as good as a M dress, but I need to convince you that it is.
Yeah. And I think
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. You're brilliant at the name drops, by the way. You must be fantastic at an awards acceptance because you're just reeling them off and you're remembering all of these key people. And I think it is important to have these key people and consultants and people that you trust, but it's equally important to you as a founder to then listen to them. So many founders I see bring in consultants to tell them, but if they don't tell them the thing that they think fundamentally they want to hear. So the fact that you will listen to that advice, will pivot, is helping you avoid those pitfalls and things. We've got some time for a couple more questions. I'm going to ask the one that I sort of planted the seed for earlier, though, because everything that I'm hearing about where you've got to at this point has been because, and you've just referenced it again there, you're at the pop-ups, you're asking these people the questions direct, you're boots on the ground, you're picking up the phone. How are you going to manage? So you brought in that consultant, I think Rebecca, did you say her name was?
Yeah.
How are you managing from here then to grow the business and grow the brand and so having to start outsourcing and delegating some of those tasks, whether it's agencies, consultants, or recruiting, whilst keeping that founder-led element and the thing that's got you to where you are today? How are you going to manage that?
I think, firstly, this isn't the way I have grown my business, to a 6-figure business really has been through, I haven't employed anyone full time. What I am quite good at is finding expertise. And then for that phase of the business, so I'm also working with someone from the eCom Collab Club, and he is a merchandiser of, the very large side. He actually is a consultant to really big companies, but I've convinced him to help me because my biggest challenge right now is profit. So, and all the things that go into profit, but obviously revenue and turnover, but really profit and really being honest with the numbers, because it's very easy to tell yourself a lie. But when someone comes in and he's the experienced merchandiser and he's like calling you out on it going, Finn, where did you get this 10 quid flat import duty, and shipping fee? Where are you getting that from? And it's like, yeah, you're right. Let's crunch the numbers, because 10 quid in my price product can be the difference between profit and loss. So, so I think I've always been good at bringing in people as consultants to help me solve a problem. I think my vision really is probably to continue to do that, because I think when you're still in that growth phase, there's different people for different phases of your business. And the more I can afford to bring in the expertise, the more it frees me up to go on the ground, to go out to see my stockists, who, by the way, any one of them, I think, would welcome me in store to chat to their customers at any point in time. And that's what I want to free myself up to do. I love design, but and that's very important to me. And I spend a lot of my time in design with crayons and colors and fabrics. And I love that. But I think bringing in kind of people who are, I recognize expertise. I recognize that I can't wear all these hats and that I'm not an expert. I'm definitely not. I'm a very strong marketer. I'm not a techie kind of person. So I know that I need someone like Rebecca. I am a numbers person. I'm a very high level and I've got a good head for numbers, but I don't live in a spreadsheet. I don't like being in a spreadsheet. I'd much rather be coloring in. So that's why I've got someone helping me with that. So I think right now I'm not going to have that problem for the next year or 2 years and I become truly profitable and, you know, kind of really looking at high 6 figures. Then I could maybe hire someone full time. But if I'm hiring someone full time, it's probably going to be a friend.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably going to be someone I know, love, and trust and who has experience as a small business owner.
Cool. So all those meta ads people need to make friends with you over the course of the next few months. That's going to be their key to getting into your supplier list.
Yeah.
Another question from me, actually. Obviously, being sustainable and being, you know, led by those sustainable, ethical sort of morals, do you tend to see within the community like a resale market forming for New Day Originals where fans are kind of buying pre-owned and sort of, do you champion that? Do you see them popping up on Vinted? And how do you kind of bring that into almost your strategy? Because you've got to support it from a sustainability point of view, because that's what you stand for. But obviously it will pain you a little bit if you then see them being advertised and things. How do you embrace it?
No, I mean, I absolutely love this question and I love this and I love the whole area. So last year, a lovely lady called Linda, I remember everyone's names. She contacted me and she said, Finn, I hope you don't mind, but I found one of your dresses in a charity shop and I wanted to share some content. She's a little content creator. And she said, would that be okay if I tagged you, like, or would you be upset? And I went, no, I was so excited. Like, you know, that someone had thought good enough of a garment to take it to a charity shop. And also having moved house, I have a load of samples that I want to donate to a local charity shop. And I will shout about that. And I will say, guys, I'm in Chelmsford now. I've just dropped 40 samples into probably, you know, the dementia charity, because that's what my father died of. And go get them, because I've loads of customers around here and there's a load of stuff in there. Please go in and support me. Like, I will make a message of that. But I don't know how, I'm sure you haven't seen my content, but here's the thing. I spend a lot of my time in charity shops and I create so much content. So because I don't shop the high street doesn't mean I don't love a Zara coat or whatever. So I was living in Notting Hill for the last 8 months and I did an awful lot of content where it was my charity shop haul. Lovely lady called Elegantly Knackered on Instagram. She's a fab influencer. She's self-renovating a gorgeous cottage in Norfolk. She actually arrived one day. She's a big YouTuber. And the two of us she filmed a whole day of us going in and out of charity shops. So this is grassroots for me. I'm not doing this to coerce people to buy my product. I live and breathe charity shops. I love it. I'm in them every other day. I cannot pass one without going in there. So I look forward to the day my brand is well known enough for someone to think, you know what, I haven't worn this a lot, or, you know, I want to change my wardrobe around, or it doesn't fit me anymore, whatever the case may be. I'm going to put this on Vinted. I actually often look on Vinted to see if my products are there. and I haven't seen my products there yet. So I'm excited about that. In terms of programmatizing it, I have a very good idea for a project at the moment, which I'm obviously not going to talk about, broadly here, but it is to do with the influencer world. I do a lot of gifting myself, and I see a lot of people being gifted, and I really would love to see that stuff kind of changing hands, because I know all those influencers just throw it into the back of their wardrobe and it kind of sits there. So that has been, if you go into my content, some of my most popular lives have been my charity shop hauls. My stories, I'd say as recent as a week ago, I posted a Christian Dior dress that I'd found in a charity shop. So I'm a massive charity shopper. So this is easy for me. And it's core to how I talk about sustainability. I never talk about sustainability like, you guys shouldn't be buying Zara anymore. I know how hard it is to walk past Zara. In fact, I go into Zara and I look around and I watch what people are buying and why they're buying it. And I love watching the returns queue at Zara, and I watch what they're bringing back, and I just listen to the conversations. I study this. And but I'm not about to tell people not to buy Zara. My way of getting into the hearts of people is to show how I'm doing sustainability. And it's not, it's not necessarily not using a plastic bag or whatever. And I don't, by the way. I put a post up a couple of days ago. I had a lot of bubble wrap come from my removalists, all my stuff in Ireland. I posted up on my story and I said, guys, does anybody have any suggestions as to what I can do with all this packaging, boxes, bubble wrap? The number of DMs I got was unreal. I need to write a post about it. So, it has to be, it can't be fake. It has to be authentic. If you're someone who doesn't really care about the planet, and if you're a brand that doesn't care about the planet, it's going to show through.
Okay. I mean, first of all, I'm a professional. I've absolutely immersed myself in your content. And I asked that question because I saw the event you did in 2021 in Brentwood, your swap event, where you actually encourage people to bring their things and swap them. And to the point that actually yesterday I had to handle a moment where I was at home with the kids yesterday and was looking at you and your content, your website. And last night, my fiance said, Isla, who's my stepdaughter, said that you were looking at ladies' clothes today when you were at home. And I was like, right, well, I need to explain that then. It was a work thing. I think, I don't know what your project is, but I would encourage, there's a wonderful lady called Lydia who has launched a piece of tech called continue.co. I don't know if I'm allowed to actually say about specific brands and stuff. I'm absolutely shouting them out because I was at a dinner with them and they've built something that actually you create a resale platform, but you take ownership of it. So it sits alongside your site and it's branded and stuff like that, so that fashion brands can sort of encourage that resale market. You can actually put your samples on it yourself. And I spoke to another brand of mine about it the other day, and they've got some ties like you. I've got a really specific tie to dementia and Alzheimer's and things. But I suppose what brands could do, and I've put this to Lydia, is they could almost say, well, rather than us benefit from it, we'd like this charity to benefit from it as well. So you can sort of champion that idea of resale and things, because actually, as you've just explained, I think it just further enhances your brand message. That not only are these dresses great to wear, but once you have worn it 3, 4, 5, 6 times, the quality is that good that it would be good for someone else to wear. And someone's willing to still pay 30, 40 pounds for it. So you should absolutely do it. And you can support charities at the same time. So I don't know if that sits alongside what your sort of project leans on, but there might already be tech there that you can leverage to make it happen. I think you'd be a great ambassador for them, if nothing else.
Wow.
We've gone overtime, to be honest, and I feel like we probably could have talked for hours, but I'm sure you've got house renovations to get to and things. So I I'd like to thank you very much for making my first solo hosting experience on the podcast a really smooth one. When we finish in a minute, this platform does actually cut us off dead. So I'll absolutely speak to you, as I'm sure, in the future on email. People can, where's the best place to message you? I was going to say LinkedIn, but I'm guessing from the sounds of it, Instagram is the best place to get in touch about you, products.
Yeah, I don't go into LinkedIn much anymore. I left that behind me. Although it's supposed to be a great platform for reaching your ideal customer, so I really should kind of go back. Definitely Instagram.
Okay.
Apart from the last 2 weeks when I was trying to move house, I'm on Instagram all day, every day.
Brilliant. Well, thank you ever so much. Best of luck with the house renovations and with New Day Originals. Bye.
Thank you. Buy your wife a dress.
I will do that.
Thanks for listening to the eCom Collab Club podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, and join our community at ecomcollabclub.com/community.